Hello and welcome to the Outvertising Awards. My name's Jamie and I'll be your mixologist for the evening. The award ceremony will be getting underway shortly. In the meantime, I'm going to take you through some delicious flavoured mojitos that you can make at home. The reason we've chosen the mojito is because it's a really versatile, classic cocktail. It's super simple to add loads of flavours to a mojito, and really once you know the method, quite simple to make at home. Once you get me started on cocktail history, I could go on about the mojito for hours, but I won't bore you too much. There's two main versions you need to know of the history of the mojito, and the origin story is certainly shrouded in the mists of time. My preferred story is that the drink originates back to the 1580s on board Sir Francis Drake's expeditions as a drink called the Drake, but the Cubans also lay a pretty fierce claim to the mojito. We'll leave that one down to the cocktail historians. Shall we make some mojitos now? We'll be using a highball glass, a Collins glass like this, to make sure we've got enough space for our mojito. That's the traditional way it's served over crushed ice. It's a really long, refreshing drink. So once you've got your glass, you'll also need something to measure your various ingredients with. I've got a cocktail jigger here. If you don't have one of those, it's absolutely no problem. You can use an ordinary shot glass, or you can judge by eye and watch how I'm doing it here. Or if you need to, you can use measuring cups or even scales. One other piece of equipment you'll need is a cocktail muddler. If you don't have a cocktail muddler, there's a simple substitute though, a rolling pin. We're going to be using this to mix together our berries and soft fruit in the middle of our drinks. We'll make a paste with sugar and the fruits, and then we'll stir our mojito up after that. I've got a specialist cocktail spoon here, but all it is a long-handled spoon, so if you've got something similar at home, that'll work just as well. If you've got a chopstick, you could use that. All we need to be able to do is reach to the bottom of the glass and stir our ingredients up to the top. The final thing to mention is that I'll be using crushed ice. That's the best way to drink the mojito, the best way to enjoy it. But if you've only got cubed, that's no problem. It's super simple to crush yourself. If you've got a tea towel, bunch up some cubed ice in that, use a rolling pin and crush the ice by hand. If you don't want to go to all that fuss, then use cubed ice by all means. As you may already know, a traditional mojito is made with white rum. That's what I'll be using today when I make the alcoholic version of a mojito. But if you don't have any white rum in stock, then you can certainly use vodka or whatever else you have in the cupboard. To the white rum, I'll be adding fresh lime juice, and the fruits that I'll be using today are fresh blackberries, raspberries, passion fruit and kiwi to give me some nice coloured versions of the mojitos. But whatever you've got fresh fruit-wise at home, feel free to use. Experiment with different flavours and have a bit of fun with it. So just to recap, white rum, lime juice, our fresh fruit. We're going to clap and add in some mint leaves to give that nice mojito minty fresh characteristic. Just a bit of sugar syrup and all lengthened up with soda. I'll also use one of the fresh fruits as a garnish on top of the drink, as that will allow us to see what flavour it is and to also impart a bit of the aroma to us as we take our first sip. If you prefer to make a non-alcoholic version of any of these drinks, I'll be doing a non-alcoholic demonstration using ginger ale, but you could certainly use a non-alcoholic spirit that you might already have at home as well. So pick your favourite. Let's make some mojitos. To anyone who's just joined us, welcome to the Outvertising Awards. You are in the right place. I'm just taking you through a few cocktails as a nice welcome drink, a flavoured mojito, while we wait for the awards to get underway. So the first mojito we're going to be making today is a raspberry variation of a traditional rum mojito. So the first thing we're going to do is take a few colourful raspberries that we've got here, and we'll just simply drop those into the bottom of our glass. 4 or 5 should do it. I'm then going to add about 15 ml of sugar syrup. I've got Giffard sugar syrup here. If you're using a shot glass, it's about 3/5 of the way up, and then add that into the bottom of your glass. If you've not got a branded sugar syrup like this, it's super simple and easy to make at home. Just 2 parts sugar to 1 part hot water. We'll then take our muddler and muddle these things in the bottom of the glass, just sort of churning them together to get a nice fruity, sugary paste at the bottom there. Then to make any mojito, we need lime juice as well. So we'll grab a lime, which we're going to cut in half lengthways, and then into thirds in 1/2. To give me some nice wedges of lime like this, which I'm going to squeeze into our glass. Next, we're going to add mint. So I've got some nice fresh sprigs here, which we'll pick the leaves off. About 4 to 6 of these mint leaves should do. We'll give those a clap and then drop them into the glass. Clapping the mint leaves is to release the aromas and really kind of bring out those fresh, minty flavours into the drink. Next up, we're going to go in with crushed ice. Don't worry about making too much mess. I always say the messier the mojito, the better. Next up, we're going to take our plantation 3-star white rum and we'll do a large 50ml measure into the glass. A little bit more crushed ice. And then it's time to churn the drink. Using the bar spoon, we want to get all of the ingredients from the bottom of the glass right up to the top. Should look something like that. And then just a little more crushed ice. A little more crushed ice to top it off. And we'll then finish off with a splash of soda water. Garnishing with a red straw for our red raspberry mojito. And one of these lovely sprigs of mint. Just before you add the mint, if you slap it back and forth on your hand, that really releases the aroma of the mint. And we'll add that to the top of our drink there. And with a raspberry by its side. So this is our first mojito variation. It's our raspberry mojito. To any of those that are just joining us, welcome to the Outvertising Awards. My name's Jamie and I'm taking you through a few cocktails before we get started. We've just made a raspberry mojito and we're going to make a non-alcoholic version similarly now. This drink will be a blackberry no-hito and it will be one of our rainbow coloured mojitos for today's session. Non-alcoholic cocktails are becoming more and more popular today and the mojito is one of the perfect drinks to try out a non-alcoholic variety. That's what we'll be doing in the next drink, replacing the spirit rum that we used before with ginger ale in our case. You could also use a non-alcoholic spirit, something like seedlip, if you wanted to. Making the blackberry no-hito at home is super simple and you won't need anything that you don't already have. We're going to be making the drink in a tall Collins glass and there's just a few more things that you'll need to make the drink. I'm going to be using a cocktail muddler. If you don't have one of these, then you can absolutely use a rolling pin. The muddler is to help us mix up the ingredients at the bottom of the glass. We'll make a nice blackberry and sugar paste and then we'll stir that through our mojito to give it that nice blue colour and that fresh blackberry flavour. I've got a long handled cocktail spoon here. If you don't have one of these, then any similar spoon that you do have or even a chopstick will work to stir the drink up from the bottom to the top. I've got a jigger here to help me measure in the ingredients. If you don't have one of these, then you can use a shot glass in its place. If you're using an alcohol substitute, then you'll need something to measure it in. I'll be using crushed ice to make the mojito today. If you don't have crushed ice available, then feel free to use cubed. You can just crush it at home yourself, super simple. If you take a tea towel, put some cubes in and then use that rolling pin we talked about earlier to crush the ice up. Crushed ice is the best way to drink the mojito as it takes longer to dilute and it allows the flavours to really permeate through, but cubed ice is completely fine. We are at home after all. So without any further ado, let's get started on our blackberry no-hito. So we're going to grab a few of these blackberries that I've got here. Sort of 4 or 5 will do, and they'll go into the bottom of our glass. I'm going to add to that sugar syrup. We need about 15 ml of the sugar syrup. And if you don't have a branded sugar syrup like I've got Giffard here, then it's super simple and easy to make at home. You can just add hot water and sugar together in a 2-to-1 sugar to water ratio, and that will make your own fresh sugar syrup. If you haven't got time for that, we can even use plain ordinary sugar. We're going to muddle everything up next to make that paste I talked about before. Perfect. That's what's going to give us the blue colour and the blackberry flavour throughout the drink. Next, I'm going to add in the mint leaves. You'll need 4 to 6 leaves of mint. Give those a clap in your hand and drop them straight into the mojito glass. Next up, crushed ice. In this case, we're going to be using ginger ale in place of the rum that we used in the previous drink. These are interchangeable, so if you're making an alcoholic version, feel free to use rum, or to use a non-alcoholic spirit. I'll be using ginger ale. We want about 40 ml of ginger ale, in it goes. Next up, we grab our lime, which I'm going to cut to make some lime wedges. I'm going to squeeze these 3 lime wedges straight in. And then we'll churn everything up together. While we're churning everything up, we're really looking to get the blackberries and the mint up from the bottom of the glass all the way up to the top. You can see we've got that lovely blue colour now. In we go with a bit more crushed ice, right to the top. Don't worry if you miss the glass, the messier the mojito, the better. I'm then going to add one of my blue straws and a little bit of the soda water, just to cap it all off. A mint sprig to garnish. Just give that a rub on the back of your hand to release the aromas, and place it in next to your straw. Cocktail garnishes serve 2 purposes. The first one is to look great on top of the drink, and the second is to impart flavours and aromas as the guest sips on the cocktail. Just to finish it all off, a blackberry on the top there. And this is our blackberry no-hito. And I've made a few different variations of the mojito to show you as well. Obviously the raspberry version that we made earlier, but the mojito is great to make with any different flavours of fruit. I've made a green version here with kiwi, which I think you'll agree is an interesting twist. So that's our kiwi mojito, as I've tried my best to replicate the various colours of the rainbow using fresh fruits. My particular favourite is passion fruit, so I've tried to make a yellow version of the mojito using passion fruit. Really, really popular flavour on the cocktail scene at the moment, and a timeless classic. That perfect sort of exotic citrus blend. The passion fruit seeds look fantastic, stirred through the mojito there. You can make all of these drinks as an alcoholic or a non-alcoholic version. As we've touched on before, just substitute the rum or the vodka out for a non-alcoholic spirit or for ginger ale. And our 4th and final mojito is the first one that we made in this short session. which is this one, our raspberry mojito. My personal favourite, the passion fruit mojito. Thanks very much for making these drinks with me. I hope you enjoyed making them and drinking them as much as I've enjoyed showing you. Cheers and enjoy the awards.